Om Shanti. So, welcome all of you to the Values for Life series. As always, before we begin, we'll spend a few moments
Om
in
Shanti.
silence to invoke
Bevor
the
wir
presence of
heute
the Supreme.
mit der Episode Nummer 95 beginnen, über das Thema von heute, ein paar Minuten Stille und dann geht's los.
So, welcome all of you once again, and we are on the episode 95 with something called proficiency. I think it's a beautiful word,
Om Shanti.
efficiency, with a lot of profit associated with it. So it's
Heute
proficiency.
ist das Thema Kompetenz. Das ist heute die Nummer 95 der Serie Values for Life, also Werte für das Leben. Und heute ist Schwester Dipty und Schwester Gopi. Schwester Dipty aus Südafrika und Schwester Gopi aus London sind heute die Sprecher. Zu zweit. Und zuerst fangen wir mal an mit Schwester Gopi. Sie hat ein gutes Gemisch in sich zwischen Osten und Westen. Sie ist seit 1979 mit den Brahmakumaris, seit 1977 mit den Brahmakumaris assoziiert, also als Kind dazu gekommen. Ihre Eltern waren schon im Wissen. Und sie war dann im internationalen Jugendprogramm seit den 90ern. Und sie ist eine erfahrene Meditationslehrerin, eine internationale Sprecherin und ist Juristin von Beruf. Sie vertritt die inneren Werte in der Führungsarbeit. Und sie ist ein fliegender Engel. Sie war vor einigen Tagen in Sri Lanka und jetzt ist sie wieder zurück in London. Herzlich willkommen, Schwester Gopi. Wir wechseln jetzt zu Schwester Dipty aus Südafrika, die ja auch seit 36 Jahren schon bei den Brahmakumaris ist, seit fast 40 Jahren eigentlich. Sie ist für die Brahmakumaris in Johannesburg tätig und sie ist auch für lebendige Werte zuständig für Südafrika. Sie ist auch Jugendkoordinatorin und arbeitet für die internationale spirituelle Jugendentwicklung. Eigentlich ist sie ein Wellness-Coach und auch im Bereich, aber sie ist lange schon im Bereich der Bildung tätig und arbeitet auch bei Highschools, also in Gymnasien, kann man sagen. Sie arbeitet auch bei den Programmen in Namibia mit. Und sie ist auch beteiligt an Programmen, die sich mit EQ, also mit dem emotionalen Intelligenzquotienten befassen. Also herzlich willkommen an alle beide und wir schauen mal, was sie beide zu sagen haben zu dem Thema Kompetenz. Sie sind ja beide kompetent in ihren Bereichen und ihr Niveau ist sehr hoch, ohne jegliche Abstriche. Und in der Welt draußen gibt es so viel spirituelle Armut und Verlust. Und sie kommen jetzt mit ihrer Kompetenz in spirituellen Reichtum.
They provide this true light of how to develop persistency
Sie sorgen
and use our
dafür,
thoughts, words, and
sie
actions
stellen
with
sie
spiritual
stellen wirklich
coherence
das wirkliche
so
Licht
that
vor,
we can
so
have an
dass
action
man
plan for every contingency
kompetent werden kann
by
in
making our life
spiritueller
work on
Hinsicht
the lines of consistency.
und
We'll be able to
durch
fill ourselves with the
Konstanz
quality of stringency and
und
spiritual decency.
Beständigkeit
So with
füllen
all these
wir unser
CCCs,
Leben mit
welcome both. I request Sister Claudia
spirituellen
to please
Werten
welcome both.
und mit
Over to you, Sister.
spirituellen,
Good morning,
spirituellen
Good afternoon for some of you. Good evening for
Reizen.
some. It's a pleasure to have both
Ja,
of
herzlich
you to
willkommen
teach us
an euch
today
beide.
some
Es
skills,
ist
how to
schön,
be
wir
very
freuen uns,
proficient,
euch
learn it
beide,
right.
Lehrerinnen
We
hier
have
zu
in front
haben
of
bei
us two
uns.
very experienced ones. We
Wir
can
haben
see
mit euch ja
over
zwei
30
wirklich
years doing this
sehr
job.
erfahrene
So they might
Lehrerinnen, die
have
schon
many,
über
many
30
skills.
Jahre
And we are
sich
looking
mit
for
diesen
that.
Themen befassen und sehr viele
So I'd like to
Fähigkeiten haben.
welcome both of you with
Und
some
ich begrüße euch
flowers
beide
from the
mit
garden
ein paar
and
Blumen aus
then
unserem
make
Garten.
you smell a
Ja,
little bit of the rose.
und die duften
And
sogar.
there's
Die Rose
red
duftet auch.
rose is the love and the yellow rose is the friendship.
Die
So
gelbe Rose
welcome
steht
to both
für
of you.
Freundschaft und die
And
rote
we are
Rose
looking
für
forward to
Liebe.
hear from you.
Und die sind für euch beide. Und wir freuen uns auf euch.
So thank you so much, Sister Claudia. And just a quick
Vielen Dank,
housekeeping
Schwester
instruction.
Claudia.
There are many interpretations today.
Jetzt
So if you
kommen noch
can
ein
just click on
bisschen
the icon below in the bottom panel and select the language you want to listen to. As always, we'll have the first
eine
around
Anleitung
50,
noch
55 minutes,
kurz.
the
Also wer von
conversation on the
euch
value,
eine bestimmte
followed
Übersetzung
by question
braucht,
answers.
klickt
So
einfach die
please keep
Sprache an,
sending in
die
your
ihr
questions to me in the chat
möchtet.
box.
Ihr wisst wo.
Thank you. So
Und wenn
over to
ihr
you both.
Fragen habt oder irgendetwas, dann schreibt gerne im Chat. Schreibt eure Frage da gerne rein.
Thank you, Brother Manoj and
Danke,
Sister
Manoj
Claudia.
Bai.
I think Brother Manoj's poem has summed everything up.
Irgendwie
Is there a
fasst
need for a
das Gedicht
conversation
von Bruder Manoj immer alles ganz gut zusammen und bringt es auf den Punkt. Was denkst du, Dipty?
Yeah, thank you. It was so creative and
Ja, immer sehr
it put
kreativ,
so many different
so wie
facets
immer.
alive, and
Und
I
hat
think
so
about
viele
it, and very
Punkte
often when we hear these words,
aufgezeigt.
it's about a journey of going within, and it's about
Und immer
reflection.
wenn wir solche Worte
So
hören,
I'm very
dann
happy,
ist es
Sister
so ein
Gopi,
bisschen
today to
eine Reise, die dann
unpack this
beginnt
journey with
nach
you,
drinnen, nach
and
innen.
I'm sure that
Und
together we will come to
äh,
a space of
auch heute unser Programm hier ist ja auch eine Reise und
yeah,
ich freue mich,
something
dass ich die wieder mit
wonderful.
dir zusammen mache.
Mm.
Und ja, mal sehen, was daraus entsteht.
these values come up and you look
Ich
at
staune
them,
immer,
and
wie
then when you
welche
start digging below the
Werte
surface,
hier benannt
something
werden. Und dann denke
emerges.
ich immer, was? Was ist
And I
das denn
guess
schon wieder
if it's,
für ein Thema?
attuned to the spiritual journey,
Und
my
ja, dann
experience
werde
is
ich
that
eingestimmt, dann stimme ich mich
everything
darauf
always
ein, auf
starts at
diese
the stage of not
Reise.
knowing, the novice stage.
Man weiß immer nicht am
And
Anfang, wo es
then you
hingeht, wo die
start
Reise
getting an
hingeht.
awareness
Und
of what needs to be changed.
ja,
The
und dann
method that you
entsteht das
need to use to bring
Bewusstsein. Man
transformation.
denkt darüber nach, was man
Principally
braucht,
you
um
need to
Dinge zu
build your life
transformieren und
value
was man verändern muss.
to be able to move forward.
Man
And I
muss
guess as you
man
start
muss
to practice that,
schauen, was man tun muss,
the
um
practice is the
voranzukommen,
proficiency.
um vorwärts zu
The
kommen.
practice starts to develop the
Und wenn
capacity
man
of,
Kompetenz entwickeln möchte,
applied theory.
dann muss
And
man
then
eine
that's the second
Theorie,
phase,
die
and
man
then the
hat,
third phase is
umsetzen.
perfection.
Also zuerst muss man lernen, wie es geht, dann muss
And
man
you
das
can't jump
umsetzen.
from
Und
the
das Dritte
first to the
ist,
third
dass man
without
es
perfection.
erreicht. Man kann nichts
And I think if
überspringen
out
auf
of these
dieser
stages,
Reise.
the one I enjoy the most is the
Und
second one.
von diesen
Just
3
practice, practice,
Stufen
practice.
liebe ich die
And
zweite
the
am
love for
meisten.
effort,
Üben, üben, üben.
the love for just,
Und ich liebe
making
die
that effort
Anstrengung,
consistently.
die Bemühung und die Bemühung
And
konsequent
I
zu
feel
machen
like
und beständig.
perhaps at the beginning of our spiritual journeys,
Am Anfang unserer
we
spirituellen
are, we
Reise
can become proficient at a gross level.
können wir zuerst oberflächlich kompetent
I
werden.
had a friend recently, well, he was a colleague who converted to Buddhism.
Ich habe eine
And
Bekannte,
he was in
die
Hindu,
ist,
but converted
er
to Buddhism.
ist zum Buddhismus
And when he
übergetreten.
converted
Er
to
war vorher
Buddhism
Hindu.
and they had the
Und als
ceremony,
er zum
he
Buddhismus
had to
übergetreten
sign
ist,
like a big
ähm,
document of
musste
all the
er ein
principles he was going
großes
to follow.
Dokument unterschreiben mit
Right.
all den Prinzipien, die
And
sie
he
haben.
had it
Da
up like a little charter in his
hatte
room.
wie so ein,
That
hatte in seinem
when
Zimmer dann
by becoming
richtig
and adhering
so
to
eine
these principles,
Auflistung
he
oder
is now choosing to live the
so eine
life of a
Art
Buddhist.
Dokument, wo drin
So
steht,
I think
was er gewählt hat,
similarly
dadurch, dass
on
er
a spiritual
Buddhist
journey,
wurde, was er dadurch
there
einhalten
are sets
wird.
of principles.
Und ich denke, es gibt immer eine
And for us in
Liste
Raj Yoga,
Prinzipien, wenn
you know,
man auf diese spirituelle
principle
Reise geht.
of
Und
purity
im Raja-Yoga steht ganz oben
is
dieses
the
Prinzip
first
der
and foremost
Reinheit.
principle.
Das ist das
And there are so many
Allerwichtigste.
practices
Und
linked
es
to
gibt
those principles.
so viele
The practice of pure food, the practice of pure
Dinge, die
company,
man praktiziert,
practice of
um das
washing
zu
your hands with
erreichen,
knowledge,
was man
connecting in yoga.
isst, wie sauber man
And I
ist
suppose
und wie
as
man auch
we,
den Geist
you know,
säubert
as we adopt these practices,
durch Wissen und durch
at the
Yoga.
outset,
Und ich
our
denke, am
vibration is
Anfang,
quite
wenn wir
gross.
anfangen, dann ist unsere Schwingung
But then
recht
as we
oberflächlich.
continue becoming more proficient,
Aber dann werden wir ja immer
it's not so
kompetenter
much
und
about the practice
kompetenter
itself,
im
the
Laufe der
teaching is more
Zeit.
about the
Und
awareness
da
that
geht
we
es
hold
nicht,
when we're practicing it.
da geht es nicht so sehr um das, was wir
And that's the
praktizieren, sondern um das
refinement
Bewusstsein, was wir
of
dabei haben, bei allem, was wir
the
tun.
principle. That
Also
ultimately
die
practicing and
Verfeinerung
becoming
des
proficient at
Prinzips
something
oder
will
des,
lead
ne,
you
der
to
Vorgabe, die wir
vibrate
erfüllen wollen.
at that vibration.
Also wir
So it is a journey from gross to subtle.
versuchen, es ist eine Reise, die vom Grobstofflichen zum Subtilen geht. Zuerst machen wir alles grobstofflich und dann wird es immer feiner, auch von innen heraus. Wir üben, beständig und konsequent. Aber was wir wollen, ist, dass die Schwingung, dass wir die Schwingung davon auch haben,
I was
die,
thinking as you were
dass wir
sharing
das
that,
ausstrahlen.
because the word that was coming to me when I heard the
Ja,
word proficiency
bei dem, was du gesagt hast, habe ich
was to
gedacht,
think about how something reaches its more subtle state and that it begins to vibrate at a different frequency. So for me, for example, I think along my journey, there were certain things as a principle I valued. And I had created practices around these principles because I value them in my life and I value them for my growth. But I'm finding more and more as I'm practicing them, there's like the subtlety comes in the form of there's like a clear energy flow. Something is a practice and then it opens something to be able to access something much more deeper. And that allows not just that situation to change, but that gives room for many other things to change. And I think that's what I love about the word proficiency, because it just doesn't, you don't just get good at something and then, but it opens up a light to something further. And that allows many things to happen. For example, if I just have to use I enjoy my early morning meditation deeply because I really feel that it's not just the practice of getting up in the morning, but that is the time where something very deep is shifting in the soul. And it's been part of my journey over the years. But over the period of time, I've realized as well that it's not just about me, because so many benefit by doing that. And so I find that the more you are able to open the door to something, through the subtlety of your practice, it actually gives room for many others to experience the similar vibration. And so really, it's not about just being good at something and being accurate in it where it comes to, but that whilst you are doing it, you're opening up doors for many others. And I think it's the multifold effect of proficiency that I appreciate.
Mm. And also this word kala, in Hindi, it's like when you develop a skill physically. So you learn how to cook, you learn how to do basic things at a physical level. They're skills, but when you actually practice something, you have a spiritual practice, it becomes an art, a kala. And that's the difference between something gross and something subtle. So the spiritual practice is what opens the portal to a vibration. When I think of our daddies and I think of the consistency of their practice to remain bodiless again and again and again, and each time they practiced it, a new experience would emerge, a new shift would happen around them. The context was different. So the spiritual practice definitely opens up doors to a variety of experiences. And it's just about being attentive to that. I often find in meditation, people ask the question, why is it I can't meditate in the same way I used to at the beginning? I used to have experiences of peace and experiences of love and joy, and why am I not getting that now? I said, well, you're not sitting to meditate to focus on the outcome of a past experience. That's not the method. The method and the practice is to consider yourself to be a soul. So when you practice that method 5 years ago, you got a result. The soul got what it needed. It opened a portal. A vibration supported you. So you have to come back to the purity of that practice and not get attached to the outcome. Because I think this is where we lose consistency, persistencies, when we get a little bit of the outcome of the practice. Maybe souls feel that's enough for them.
So that outcome is like a limitation. If I'm looking out for the outcome, it actually blocks that energy, because I'm always going back to that feeling of that outcome, and that's where I want to be. And yet the opportunity of the soul's growth at this time and what it can access is so more available. But if I'm going back to an outcome that I've had, or if I've meditated in a certain way, then I'm limiting the capacity of what the soul can offer right now. And I've just been thinking about, just in my own journey in the space of soul consciousness, and just thinking how, if I look at the last few months, we've had an incredibly busy time, very, very busy time. We've had some international guests that has been quite busy, and also certain challenges with the health of certain family members in our centers. So it's been an extremely busy time in many, many ways. But I'm finding more and more that the practice has helped me to keep an energy of soul consciousness that is open and flowing. So the more and more, if I practice soul consciousness, or a certain level of understanding of soul consciousness, even a few months ago or a year ago, I think that I should feel in a certain way. But I feel right now that I feel a lot more that I'm not bound by the situation, whether it's the busyness or the person that's so unwell, but I've been able to stay in a space which is able to give. And that giving energy has been a flowing energy. And that for me is this beautiful energy of proficiency, where it's the same practice of soul consciousness. And maybe a few months ago, or even a year ago, I was saying, okay, I'm stable in the situation, or I'm not affected in this way, or I've allowed myself to be in a certain way here. But now I feel that it's not about that. It's not about the situation. And it's not about the person. That has just become a springboard for the soul to be in a different space. And so it's such an energy flow of just giving. And that giving energy is a very beautiful strength that I'm experiencing. It's a strength. And that is the strength of soul consciousness, which has been a wonderful experience.
I think that what comes to mind as you're speaking is the word mastery. It's almost like, for things to, for something to become healthy, it has to be circulating. Energy has to circulate. And when we become proficient in something, i.e. consistent in something, it's less about being an expert, because an expert is still a description I would give to learning a physical skill. I can be an expert in cooking, an expert in public speaking, an expert in this, an expert in that. But spiritual proficiency creates mastery, which means that you stay in the stage of abundance, bestowing, flow, and you're managing circulation in each moment. So it's not a static position. It's a very fluid position of mastery. And the master is aware that it has all the resources it needs to be able to, be whatever a situation needs it to be. And I think that kind of very subtle self-awareness and self-faith allows movement to happen in our context. I always find you don't need to be perfect to serve. You just need to be consistent in your internal practice, because whatever it is that you keep receiving spiritually is what others then experience from you. And that's natural service. And I think when we look at proficiency in a body conscious term, a very limited way, then someone's always striving. They're striving.
And it can be, sorry, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, as you were just saying, I was thinking, it can be so event-based or person-based or situational-based. And what I'm personally experiencing is that those things are happening, but like in the spiritual terms, you'll call it your stage. So your stage vibrates beyond just an event or just a person, but it's something that you've now activated in your space. And that which you've activated in your space is flowing. So I find whether it is managing somebody that's really not well, or trying to get things done in a busy place, it's like, it's not about that place and it's not about that person, but certain other energies have awoken And it's like a benevolence. It's like a flowing energy that is coming. And that for me has been a beautiful experience. So you're not just efficient in the things you have to be doing, but you are vibrating at a higher frequency whilst you're getting everything done. And for me, that's the proficiency. It's like everything has to be done. It's not that you're just doing something from an airy-fairy space above. You probably have to be nursing and you have to be doing certain things the way they need to be done. So you are efficient and you are present. The thing is, you are present for that moment and you are present for that situation. So you are effective and efficient, but in the space you're vibrating at a level that's above, or a level that's more of a higher frequency. And so what you're offering to that individual or to that place is a byproduct. It's like, you know, like the sister was just saying to me that thank you for doing all that you are doing, but just, you know, I feel because she's in so much pain, so she's saying, I just feel so much more comforted. And for me, that energy of comfort is not just through what it's being done, but it's a vibrational space that you're emitting because you are taking differently from it. And that for me is such a beautiful space in which one can operate from. And when you're proficient, you can't fake it. You know, you can't fake your proficiency. You can't, because you're going to vibrate or your stage is going to reflect it. And that you can't pretend and you can't, you can't fake it. It will emit itself naturally through the things that you do because it's grown over a period of time and that's what it's going to shine out. Yeah.
I wonder if just listening to you, if the word, you know, it's not efficiency, it's harmonizing. Your vibration actually supports harmony, you know, and that's why soul feels comfortable, because harmony is something so, it's like a natural spiritual order. You know, your presence is supporting a higher spiritual order that is allowing souls to be comfortable with whatever context they're in. And to have that accompany efficiency is a deadly combination in one sense, you know, not in the, it's really a very effective combination because so many things can be accomplished. Sometimes souls, you know, for the sake of getting a task done, focus on efficiency. Oh, well, we have to do it this way, and the method has to be like this. We have to do it like this. And there is a cost with being efficient-minded, because if you lose the harmony, you will lose the efficiency eventually. But when you vibrate, your vibration is more subtle and more benevolent, and the focus and the attention is on the harmony and the benevolence, then slowly, it might take a long time, but you will get the efficiency as well. You will learn the art, if you like. It won't just be a skill, it'll become an art form. And that's what is mastery, you know, mastery is as an art. And in the face of an art, all limitations are revealed. Like, you know, sometimes people serve because they want a name for themselves. They want fame. And it's very subtle. You know, I see this sometimes in different places, and I'm just aware of how important it is to be honest with the self in the field of service. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Is there something mixed in this? Is the association that I have with people giving me importance, making me look important, making me look, you know, there's so many limitations that step in because you look at people when you look at service, or the people I want to be associated with. Then you look at what you do that gives you importance. But when you're proficient, spiritual proficiency means you operate consistently on a personal value.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with an event, a person, a project, an idea. It has to do with a resonance of something deeper inside, which is a deep sense of value for something. I've just been touring Sri Lanka, and I went back after maybe 2000, maybe 12 years, 13 years. And first time I visited Sri Lanka was after the war. And it was from Madhuban. Daddy had sent me. And I remember I was deeply touched by the efforts that the BK family were making to support the rehabilitation of the victim of war. And it was, you know, the army had given space to the BKs in all their camps where the war had taken place in the villages and the cities. And the BKs would go out, and there would be a team of 8 team of 6 souls that would circulate every 8 weeks, because it was harsh environment, you know, post-war. And I remember observing the methods they used, what they did to help. But more importantly was the bhavna with which they were doing something. That even if, okay, the method was this and that, and you could add a few more methods to the process to refine something, the bhavna was what was reaching souls. Just the effort they were making with the bhavna that they were holding in their hearts. And now when I returned back to Sri Lanka and I went back to those same areas post-war, you know, beautiful centers have opened up. There's a big spiritual family there. And I really felt deeply this is the product of bhavna. And I think this is where, you know, as a spiritual practice, when we adopt something, it is cleaning our bhavna, it's elevating our bhavna, it's refining our bhavna. And it's the universe is always responding to our bhavna. So you will get what you want. If you want name and fame, you'll get that. You know, you'll get what you want. If you want association, nepotism, you know, there's all kinds of things that get mixed in service. Ego uses the name of service to get its job done. And the thing is, the universe will always give you what you want. And so I always say, be careful what you want. That at a deep level, my spiritual practice keeps my bhavna selfless, keeps my bhavna free from any agendas, keeps my bhavna benevolent, keeps the bhavna humble, and keeps the bhavna constructive. And at the end of the day, the world and Baba and God responds to this pure bhavna. And I always feel like this is what, you know, when I used to think about Daddy Janki, Daddy would talk about these 2 words, bhavna and bhasna. I think you'll remember. And, you know, I'd once asked her the question, what is your effort? And she said, I keep my feelings clean. And when Daddy keeps herself, gives good wishes because it's Daddy's protection. So there was an effort she was making. It's not that good wishes were happening by themselves. There was a method she was following to keep herself beyond. You know, she talked about her 5-step method. She would detach every so often from her senses. She would separate, consider herself to be a soul. She would then become an observer, and then a witness, and then she would transcend the physical and go into the spiritual realm. And that very subtle effort, because it's to do with effort of your mind and intellect concentrating, right? That was a consistent effort she made that allowed good wishes to flow. And
Yeah.
I realized, even with Nuebai, I asked him a question. I said, what's your effort? And he talked about every morning, half an hour, where he would start by remembering the childhood days of his spiritual journey, emerging those good memories. And then he would transcend to the subtle, and he would, feel the subtle qualities of the soul. And then he would transcend to the soul world in deep silence and just vibrating light and might. And then naturally, all of Baba's instruments and God's instruments around the world would emerge in front of him. So he'd be like a lighthouse in that stage. And then he would bring his awareness back down into this body with that light and might and serve the physical body. And every day this routine took him half an hour. And I said, what's been the result of this routine? And he said, well, I stay in a state of good wishes, and people's negativities and issues don't touch me anymore. So, at our core, as souls, there is such a deep, deep, pure benevolence. And somehow when we serve, we attempt to bring the benevolence out through a project, through a scheme, do you see what I mean? In gross ways. But it's actually the subtle practice of aligning your mind and intellect, concentrating on yourself as a soul, concentrating on the supreme, taking your mind and intellect beyond, that releases the natural flow of good wishes. And that balance between, this inner concentration and then the external planning, if you like, is what really allows, I think, fruition. I think allows a lot of success to happen in service. And
as
that,
you say,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, just one last sentence.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything to please yourself.
Yeah. As you've been sharing, I've just been both the examples and stories that you've shared, whether it was about Sri Lanka, or even of our daddies, and I was thinking how, on the one level, during that time, the first visit when you went, and they were doing what needed to be done, but it is that pure energy that brought the fruit of what you saw this time. And this is what proficiency is all about. It's like, in that moment of need, I've done what I've had to do, but what is activated from that now is the product. And I look at our daddies, and I look at how they had certain practices which they sincerely did in the early years as well. And what we see as the fruit now is as a result of it. It's not about the projects that they ran and the events that they were part of, but it was certain practices. And I think this energy is such an important one, because very often in people's lives, they still hold a level of worthiness in their efficiency rather than in their proficiency. And so they get stuck at that point, that they've become efficient in certain things, they've become skillful in certain things, they've got it right. And so their self-respect is somehow secured through that, what they've attained, because outwardly it all looks great, but it's not a growing energy. And because it's not a growing energy, it's just a matter of time that that energy is going to create an ouch because it's not growing. And so just like I find, for example, you can get so used to working with people and you can get it right. But it's not about just getting it right. It's about divinity, and it's about happiness, and it's about a connectedness, which is vital. You know?
And a cleanliness.
And a cleanliness.
And a real, how do you say, authenticity? You know, that the interaction is a genuine interaction.
Yeah.
And that makes things so simple.
Yeah.
You know, it keeps a lot of simplicity alive. When you're practicing, you know, I love the word, instead of proficient, I like the word effort, like practice. You know, that practice keeps you very simple and humble.
I'm so sorry, I have to excuse myself for 1 second. My apologies.
It's okay. Mm-hmm.
I live in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm remembering a moment, you know, as you're traveling and you come back, you know, to London Heathrow. and then, you know, it's been a long flight and you want to, of course, come off the plane and pick up your luggage and come home as soon as possible. And then you get to the luggage carousel and you wait and wait and wait and wait. And the luggage doesn't come. And you know, in that kind of instance, when we're talking about our spiritual practices, which is at its basic, consider yourself to be a soul and remember the Supreme, this is a moment-to-moment practice. And I have to even let go, when I'm sitting on the plane, let go of the thought, oh, I want to get home as soon as possible. Because if you operate from that level, then you're just setting yourself up for stress. But when you just, okay, I've arrived, consider yourself to be a soul, have a moment's remembrance, now walk off, just consider yourself to be a soul in each moment, then there's no strain of trying to achieve an outcome and no tension with it. And it was very interesting that as we're standing around the luggage carousel, the level of tension in the people is rising, right? So 5 minutes, okay, 10 minutes, okay, then 20 minutes, somebody goes, oh, somebody's sighing, somebody says. And I realized that we're doing all the same thing, waiting. But how are we waiting? We're waiting in an expectant state. You know, so any kind of subtle expectation it prevents us from actual practice, from being proficient in something. It's like you have to release the expectation to become proficient. You can't keep wanting something to become proficient. You have to just keep applying the method right? The method, the practice, you just have to keep practicing that and see the result. So here I am standing around this luggage carousel, and by the time it's 45 minutes, I can feel the patience starting to wear thin. So I come back to the practice, because the practice gives you certain reserves of energy. You know, it creates a vibration for you. You accumulate things, and that gets used at the time you have tests. And then as I could feel the patience starting to get thin, I went back to the practice again. And it's amazing how in that moment, when it's a real, true spiritual practice, you're not just thinking for the benevolence of yourself. Oh, I wish the luggage would come out, right? That's how you're actually thinking of the people and the luggage handlers. I was like, suddenly kicked into so much benevolence. Well, those poor guys at the back, they must be struggling. There's only a few of them. Send them good wishes to get their job done well. You know, it's like you think of the whole. You understand the dynamic and the energy flow of the whole, and your good wishes and your mercy and your compassion extends to beyond the immediate. That's what I find a real spiritual practice does, is it opens up your awareness, your field, to bigger than what's happening in this moment, which is what releases you from the expectation of the moment or being outcome driven of any kind. And it was so beautiful, because at that moment when I was just generating good wishes for these luggage handlers, the luggage started to come out, and my luggage was first. And you know, it was just such a beautiful dynamic to watch unfold of what happens when you really sincerely you stay consistent at a spiritually active. You know, it's spiritually active means aware. The awareness button doesn't go off, where you just rest on your laurels, rest on what you've got, and like you said, rest on your achievements or reaching a certain level of skill. It doesn't matter that doesn't matter. What matters,
and it moves you to
benefit.
It moves you to a whole, isn't it? It's like at the carousel, one begins to think about, I haven't received my luggage or whatever. But whenever I've changed that and made it a whole energy and connected others in the space, then that energy flows. And very often in people's lives journey, even in the space of efficiency, it's about I'm efficient, or I expect the efficiency of you. And so it's like a singular energy still. But when there's that level of proficiency, it opens up to a whole. It's not about me anymore, and it's not about you anymore. It's about us, and it's about the wholeness. And I think that energy is quite a vital one to just unpack at a very, very powerful level. Because really now I feel that if we need to move forward, it's that energy of we and us. At a very real level, not just a nice level. It's not about being nice, but it's about really from a space that is so enveloping of the wholeness of things. And it's like, this is what I think on the spiritual part we learn. And this is why there's such a connection with this word benevolence, because benevolence is to a whole. Benevolence is not just to one or two. Benevolence is just benevolence. And it's such a beautiful flow of energy. And I was thinking, Manoj, when you had shared this topic, and I was thinking, well, these words all sound so deep, and I was trying to work with them. But as I sat down in meditation and I thought I didn't want to just Google it and see what it means and then identify it in my own life's journey. But as I sat in meditation, I just had this very beautiful feeling that, child, this is your journey. You are being mastering at this, and this is your ways forward. So it's not a new word. It's not something that you're just unpacking as a value, but it's actually where humanity needs to be right now. Because the call for humanity now is not about just being efficient and good at something. The world needs a wholesome experience. And so that energy flow that comes up in a wholeness is what's going to support. Like I find as I'm dealing with the patients, with the sister who's sick, it's not about just her. The doctors enjoy our company. The nurses enjoy the company. The patient on the next bed enjoys the company. It's like not about just you being good with one. You just are. And what you are is serving many. And so that's the energy flow that we need to activate. And that's the proficiency and the energy flow within our being. And it comes from a very, you cannot do this with an agenda or a motive because it will always hold you back. That energy can never flow then. It just has to come from a sincere space of honesty and cleanliness and the bhavna that you're talking about, Gopi, because that allows that heart to open, the vibrations to flow, and that brings the fullness. Yeah.
Well, as you're speaking, I was remembering another incident, and it's a switch. When you're becoming proficient in a spiritual practice, it's a switch of awareness. And we were stuck in a traffic jam in India, in a city, as we were going from A to B. And of course, when the driver's trying to be efficient, he's trying to go into different lanes, trying to overtake, trying to find the quickest route to get to our destination. And it was clearly not working. And I then, when you make the switch, I just said to him, look, we're souls sitting in this car, and all these souls are sitting in their vehicles and they want to get home. So can't we just generate a good wish that everybody reaches home on time? And this whole thing around efficiency can make you myopic, and make you only see your benefit and what you gain out of it. Whereas when you
can be good at
make
it.
the switch, and that's a subtle ego develops.
Yeah.
But then when you keep
good
switching
driver, I
awareness,
can get you on time.
exactly. But then the benevolence is that you wish everyone to be able to reach home on time because they're souls, they're tired, they've had a long day at work. And then, what about when you get on a plane? And efficiency will make you look for your seat, get there first, get in the queue first, make sure you get to the right place at the right time, great. But everybody else is also looking for their seat. And so, can you generate a good wish that everybody comes on safely, everybody has a good flight, everybody is safe journey? It leaves you feeling so much more relaxed. Because the funniest things you see at airports, the queues, they all rush to get on the flight at the same time. And I can never understand why, because everybody has their seat allocated, right? The seat's not going to go. But it's almost like, okay, I want to get there. So at the expense of pushing into someone's queue, get there. But we're all going to get there. So can we do it peacefully? This shift from self to the interconnectivity, that actually it's when we benefit that I benefit, not that when I benefit, we benefit, It's when we benefit that I benefit.
And that proficiency values the quality, not just the activity. Like the peace and the love that is supporting and emitting from that space. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm. Yeah.
So, on a last note, the sense that when you're being efficient, you can be doing something for someone. You can be bringing benefit, but you're still in the way. You know, look, being efficient, doing things for you, isn't it good? Organized everything for you. Isn't everybody taking benefit? Yes, yes, that's good. But proficiency and spiritual proficiency is that you're not in the way. You know, regardless of you, the benefit continues. Souls are empowered to take leadership. Souls are empowered to be themselves in your presence. Souls are empowered to come forward. And what may have been initiated by you doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to everyone.
Yeah. Lovely.
Okay,
So I think it's to 4 o'clock. Yes, Manoj bhai?
yeah. So thank you so much. And listening to you all, it was all about the subtleties of the value proficiency, which you all covered in a big length, in a big detail of the vibrations and the wholeness of the value. So one basic question here arises that can we say, I'll say the comment first and then you all can comment on that question or comment on that comment, that efficiency is something more to do with the method, to do with gross, and to be more generalistic. Whilst proficiency is all about the wholeness approach, the bhavna, that the intention, as you all are saying, that what is my intention behind serving. And it is not about becoming an expert. It is about taking care of our vibrations. That's what you all are saying, right? Again and again, about vibrations and intentions. So the question here arises is that how can I be proficient or efficient both in meditation, in my meditation practices? Obviously, we should not be worried about the outcome, as you all said. Just be there, sit there, and feel whatever you're feeling. But how can I be more proficient or efficient in my meditation practice? Any method?
I think there is merit in fixing a time. In Japan, they have a word called kaizen, which means continuous self-improvement, which actually promotes the fact that if you adopt any practice and you practice it at a fixed time every day, even for 1 or 2 minutes, because you fix that time and place, that stabilizes the mind to be able to go deeper into that experience of that practice. So fixing a time for something is very important. It's not that you do meditation off the hoof, you know. There is a time to eat. Our whole life moves because we eat lunch at a particular time, breakfast at a particular time. Time has a very important role to play. So fixing a time for meditation is important. And then within that is refining the concentration of the mind and intellect on something. So people can meditate at the basic levels of just being mindful. That's the most basic level, which is still a very gross level of meditation. You're just being aware of the thoughts that are coming into your mind, and you're being aware of how your body feels. You're being aware of where your attention is being distracted. So you're still aware of everything physical, but you're watching it. That's being mindful. But as you progress further and you want to go into more the depths of yourself, then you have to give your mind and intellect a focal point. And so even if it is a quality that you take up, the quality of peace. Allow your intellect to go in to understand this quality. Why is this important for me? What does it look like when I'm peaceful? What does it feel like? And that act and the dialogue that happens between the mind and the intellect is what starts the process of opening the portal to a deeper, more subtle vibration. So it's very important for there to be a focal point in the meditation. In different meditation practices, people have a gross focal point. So they focus on a mantra, they focus on a candle flame. But if you remove that object away, that's just like a technical focus, right? You're just focusing your eyes somewhere, but your mind and intellect aren't doing anything. So what happens is when you remove that object of focus away, the players start playing their games again. But to change the behavior of the players inside, you have to give them a constructive purpose and focus. And you have to change the dialogue. So for me, meditation, improving and refining the practice is what's the focus and what's the conversation I'm having with myself.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll take separate questions for both of you so that we can cover maximally the questions. I'll cover this second question. It's quite deep and it's a big question, but it covers what you all actually spoke about, that if I want to be proficient, I need to practice soul consciousness again and again, more of that, which is easier said than done. So the question is that it's a sister who's asking that I live in a family, the practice of doing 100% proficiency, like living a life of purity, eating always pure food, is not possible 100%. Now, should that make me feel burdened? Because sometimes that makes me feel that that's what is coming between my journey of soul conscious journey, and then I feel guilt. So guilt and soul consciousness don't go hand in hand. I feel I'm wasting my time here, and rather I should be at ease and focus more on practicing soul consciousness. So maybe Sister Dipty could answer that. Soul consciousness.
So I think for me, many things do happen in our life's journey, and we do want to achieve a certain stage of soul consciousness that has its own depth and subtlety. But I find that one thing that is always very important, and this gives me power when I think about it, is sometimes certain things may seem like in the way, and I may not be able to achieve something 100%, but it doesn't mean that my intention and my honesty and my purity should be compromised. So when you hold on to that, then you're not harsh on yourself, neither are you criticizing yourself, neither are you feeling guilty about yourself, because often the spaces where we feel guilt or we feel a sense of discomfort is because there's something inside us that's still not comfortable. It's very interesting. When you make peace with something and you're comfortable with it inside, even if you have not achieved the fullness of it, you'll have the strength and the determination to keep going, and you won't allow your weaker thoughts to make you feel lower. So my sincere answer to the sister would be just keep going deep inside and look at the heart of your intention and the heart of what's inside you that feels most comfortable for your journey of soul consciousness as a conscience, and keep that alive. If you keep that alive, you will head more and more towards the fullness of your soul consciousness. Because if there's something that's still mixed inside of you in terms of what you enjoy and what you you desire, then that creates the guilt and the burden because I may be not becoming 100% in what I need to do. So it's not about whether I've achieved it or not. It's about really to check yourself and see how comfortable and am I inside of me on this journey of soul consciousness. And it will open doors. You know, really, I found even in my own spiritual journey, in the beginning when I came to the Brahma Kumaris, there were many challenges that had come. And I could have stopped with all those challenges or feel bad or feel guilty and I just took time and said to my heart, what is it that you really want? What is it that you are what's inside you really yearning for? And what are you most comfortable with? And I just kept feeding that and giving it life. And the rest of it then fell apart on its road. I wasn't trying to fix any of that. It fell apart by itself because the heart's intention was clean and in the right place. I don't know if that helps. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. So Sister Gopi was speaking a lot about flight experiences. I'll also share one very quickly. So it was like flying from Indianapolis to Albany, which is the closest small airport close to Peace Village via New York. So the other big airports, your luggage comes on time at the carousel immediately. But at Albany, they had told us it's a small flight. You might as well have to wait a long time. So I was prepared for that. But then to my surprise, the luggage didn't come. It was 45 minutes, as you rightly said. I was stable inside, not creating any thoughts. But then I thought, let me just go to the luggage room where the executives sit. Let me just ask there, where's my luggage? Because there was no announcements that flight from New York to Albany, that luggage is there. And I couldn't see any of my fellow passengers. So I felt maybe I'm in a wrong place or something. And I went there and my bag was just sitting there outside that executive, the luggage room where they are. So I said, I'm so sorry, it's my mistake. They said it has come 40 minutes before itself. You should have come here and picked up. So I just shared this story because I think this was a test paper for me, 40 minutes waiting there and doing nothing but stable mind. So someone here is also mentioning that people try to flock into the flights only because they have cabin baggage to keep, and if they are not going first in line, except the business class passengers who have a lot of space up. So in the economy class, people go fast, flock in so that they have place to keep their cabin baggage. Otherwise, they don't get that, and automatically what happens is they have to, the airline authorities say, the ground staff, please give your bag, we'll do in the check-in for you all, and so on and so forth. Anyway, to cut the story short, how do we deal with such flight experiences? All sorts of different flight experiences. And nowadays, we saw a few days ago or just yesterday, the Windows outage happened and all the flights were grounded because science and technology we are so used to it, and we are in an age of a lot of science and technology. And once that comes to a standstill, how do we deal with that? Any methods?
It's more an attitude to life.
Okay.
It's like, okay, yeah, you're jumping the queue to put your cabin bag in. But at the end of the day, the flight's not going to go off without you. And even if you don't get space for your cabin bag above your seat, the cabin crew have to find space for your cabin bag. It's as simple as that. So, keeping your mind relaxed in all of these circumstances is the first priority. Because when the mind is relaxed, something opens up. You can receive touchings, you can receive catchings, your benevolence opens up, possibilities open up. And when people see you relaxed, they're more likely to help you. When you kind of have an attitude, because you want your thing to happen first, your thing, this is why we do this. It's like the the tension of all of that, which is such an illusion, is what actually prevents you from getting the help you need. So whatever the circumstance, something's always going to go wrong. But can I keep my mind just relaxed and open? And then, something will be touched. And I want to add a little bit to the previous question, because I find that intention plays a very important role in being able to accomplish something. But method is equally as important.
Mm.
And people hold an intention, but they don't have a method, so they don't get success. Then they give up. And so perhaps in the question aspect of this lady, it's a question of understanding what is the method for meditation, and what is the method to help, create this experience. Because when you start following the method, it cleans your intentions anyway. Nobody is able to keep their intentions completely 100% clean from beginning to end. Something gets corrupted. But when you understand the method and you practice the method, it keeps refreshing your intention.
Yeah.
And this is where I think people fall by the wayside. They have intention, I want this and I want this, and the intention turns to an expectation, but they haven't researched the method. Well, what's the method I need to use here to be able to take myself into peace? The method I need to use to take myself into love. And the method for me is very simple. Is to first understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. The intellect has to be activated. Why is this important for me? Why is practicing peace important for me? The intellect has to accept the focus. The second is activating the mind. So what would it look like if I was completely peaceful? And then the third is going to the actual practice. So what do I have to do? What one thing I can do to remain peaceful? And as you start this process of integration, integrating your faculties, you're making them one. You're making them whole. And so even when you have the thought, I am a peaceful soul, because you've done the work of integrating your faculties, very quickly the peace will emerge. That's the preparation for the meditation.
Okay.
I'm not practicing it because somebody's told me I have to do it and meditation is good for me.
And you touched upon, just to add on to that, what you said, you touched upon Dadi Janki's 5-staged approach, that you initially start becoming detached, then you separate, then you go into the 3rd stage, soul conscious, then you become more of a detached observer as a witness, and then transcend. So I think these are the 5 stages which you mentioned in meditation. So do you want to elaborate more on, that's the method, as you said, as well?
Well, that's one method, and that's a method she developed. So the first stage was detaching herself consciously, stepping away from the roles, the to-do lists, the masks, and detaching from the sensory experience of the world, pulling the attention inside. And then distinctly experiencing the separation of the subtle energy and the physical energy. The feeling that I am a soul in this physical body. And then taking the seat of the observer, the detached observer. It's like you're sitting inside, watching. And then as you go deeper into your peace, you're watching, observing just becomes witnessing. It's like you're looking at something from a distance. You're hearing, but not hearing. You're seeing, but not seeing. And then you can take yourself into silence, deep silence. And, we have many other methods as well in Raja Yoga meditation. The practice of becoming bodiless, one moment you're activated, your intellect is engaged with the task. The next moment, your intellect steps away from the task and lets go. I am not this job. I'm not this work. I have nothing to do. Drop the I. And then pick it up again and start the work again. And then drop it again. There's the practice of the full stop, which is stopping the traffic of your thoughts. Every so often, we practice traffic control. So every so often, you stop the flow of thoughts, apply the brake. So there's many different methodologies available to us. It's a question of studying those methods and then incorporating and starting to develop proficiency in each of those methods that start to bring results.
Okay, so since we are on this different methods, one more method someone has asked is about experiencing the volcanic stage or the seed stage of remembrance. So maybe Sister Gopi Sister Dipty, you want to highlight on what is this seed stage and volcanic stage, and how can we sit in half an hour for that, or it's just a few moments where you can be volcanic and in the seed stage, because it's difficult.
I think for me, the experience is really, for me, the essence of where I need to be. When I think about seed stage, the moment in front of God, in total stillness, where I'm in my essence of being, is a very powerful moment. And that just doesn't come like that. I find when I'm making certain practices more regular and deeper, and the shift of it is in a deeper level, then when I do sit for meditation, and especially in the early morning time, I find that this kind of stillness pulls me into an essence. And it's subtle, or rather more than subtle, more incorporeal. But what it echoes into my life's journey is very deep. And I find the whole aspect is, after that, there's a very deep transformative energy. It's like you get a life. I mean, sometimes after the yoga or a very special moment in yoga, it's like the soul has a new insight and a new light in many things that happens. And I think that is very, there's many technical terms and many technical things we can talk about the seed stage and the volcanic stage. But for me, the transformative energy and the deep, deep stillness and connection, things change. And for me, those are the moments that's really kept me alive in my spiritual journey. They've been very, very specific and very powerful. So I think it's not about just the technique of doing it. It's like over a period of time, your commitment to yourself, your purity, your that deep space within that brings you to a space which really makes you silence and essenceful with the seed.
Okay, sure. So I know I'm afraid the time is coming to a close, but I'll just take this one question, I don't know whether it's related to proficiency, but it is about, I have a lot of feelings of guilt because of lustful dreams. So can you please help what to do for that? Maybe Sister Gopi can answer.
You know, understanding the nature of lust is important. In fact, understanding the nature of all the vices is important. If you have one, you have them all. Mm-hmm. You know, they all come, they're all very best friends. Daddy would always say, you know, lobe and more, greed and attachment are best friends. Ego and attachment also are best friends. So there's something you're feeding in your life that's keeping lust alive. And, you know, typically when people experience that, there's also accompaniment of anger. And if you're feeding anger, and anger gets stimulated when you keep somebody's image or somebody's behavior in your awareness and consciousness. It's like you're holding how someone is in your mind, because anger only gets activated between two people, right? If you're on your own and there's nobody around you, you don't get angry. But if you're holding on to someone's bad behavior, the way they spoke, what they did in your mind, then that is a recipe for keeping yourself angry, in frustration, in tension all the time. And that feeds lust, because both of them are very deeply connected. And of course, lust is, in its root sense, desire, expectation, the pull of the body, all of these that keep us in the hormonal experience of life rather than the spiritual experience of life. So I think any of the vices that we have, it's not a question of feeling guilty about it. It's a question of understanding that this energy is surfacing. And it's surfacing to take leave. It's surfacing to go. It's surfacing for a reason. So what can I do to lift the pressure valve to release that energy? Right? And I think the focus, is to really keep yourself. There were two words Daddy would say: clean, 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 clear, 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 clean, clean, clean. That's what you're always doing with any of the vices. It's like rubbish entering your mind and your awareness. And you don't sit there and go, oh, you feel guilty about the rubbish that's entered your house. Oh, my house is dirty. I feel guilty. Clean. Pick up a broom and clean it. Right? So find ways to keep the self clean. So write a letter to Papa. Talk about it. Go for a walk. Because any energy that's stagnant will manifest itself like this. The energy of the vices stagnates the human being. So if in your life you're stagnating at some level, you're not making a decision about something, you're stuck in something, you haven't thought about the broader purpose of your life, then all of that will surface in your mind. The vices will take over because they exist to stagnate you. So you just need circulation. Go for a walk, breathe, to go do some karma yoga somewhere. Clear the energy, clean, 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 clear, 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 until you regain perspective. Don't stop at the guilt. Go and keep clean, 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 clear, 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 until you regain perspective about your direction. And then you're back on track again.
Right, wonderful. So clean, clean, and clear, clear. That's the mantra for today. So thank you so much, both of you. And unfortunately, Dr. Mehta wasn't able to join, so he sent his apologies. And I would now request Sister Claudia to propose the vote. Thanks. Over to you, Sister Claudia.
It was very nice to hear both of you talking about this subject. And I was taking my notes and to see a whole thing. And then I saw that how proficiency brings bhavna is a quite important point, because then I see that even I have an initiate, I move souls forward, even if I have initiated, that don't belong to me anymore. So brings that bhavna for doing things, and that makes me more and more efficient in spirituality. Also, I like the point when you said we need a method, because this method keeps us fresh inside, renew that energy. So more we go into those three stages, the principle, then the efficiency, and the proficiency becomes larger, and we can do better. So, and also very important to know that we go from the gross to subtle, like she said, on the other vices are together, they are very good friends. So when we start cutting back the friendship, that subtle, that gross is going to be, and the subtle slowly also goes away. So that helps us to improve our life and the life of others. And also, I like to see, like, when when we do with the heart, we can feel like you say how we do with the heart. You don't have to keep thinking when you are doing yoga, oh, that much, that this and that. No, just keep doing, and enjoy the time and doing yoga. And then a special experience is going to come from that, that feeling that we are doing just for the sake of ourselves and for the other ones who are around us. So thank you very much. It was a very good talk. Very, we are going now to start thinking about where I should improve more. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you and Manoj Bhai for remaining consistent and efficient and proficient in keeping the values series alive.
So we are not stopping at 100. We are going up to 108, the perfection. That's what we were discussing before. Thank you. So I'll just quickly do the announcements and then we'll go in the meditation mode. So if all of you can also, I think Sister Garima or Brother Nikhil, if you all can just be ready for the photograph as well. And before I go on to the meditation, I'll just share this screen here. So as always, we have the workshop following the talk. So we have with us one of our other sisters. So from UK and South Africa, we take our flight towards UAE, Abu Dhabi. So for the next Saturday, the workshop on proficiency with experiential exercises on Saturday, 27 July. And Sister Sona Bari would be our facilitator then. And as always, we end the month with a silence retreat. And we are so fortunate that coming Sunday, it's Didi Manmohini, who is one of our very seniors. She was the only Didi of the Yagya. And she's the one who became Avyakt, what we say, left the body on 28 July itself. So it's in her remembrance as well. We'll be having the silence retreat on the value of transparency, which was there at the starting of July. So please join in. And the next value is 96 episode on accommodation. We call it in Hindi Samane ki Shakti and maybe Anukulan as well, like trying to take people as they are and accept them as they are. So accommodation. So we have our seniors with us. Again, Sister Geeta from the West Coast, Los Angeles, USA. And Sister Hemlata, she'll be joining for the first time. She's from Trinidad, and both of them have a beautiful conversation on this value of accommodation. These are our websites, and you can feel free to select the playlist which is mentioned here. And please feel free to send your feedback and comments on our emails as well. And if there are any new participants, please share in your WhatsApp contacts and emails. We'll be sending you all these, the workshop, particularly the review materials later in the emails. So with this, I'll just stop sharing the screen. And if I can request all of you all to have this photograph, if you all want to be photographed, please keep your cameras on. So Nikhil bhai, who is it? Garima Bahan is taking, right? Okay, thank you. And once it is done, let me know. Thanks. So we'll just go in the meditation. So will it be some drishti or some commentary, whatever suits you all? Is that the traffic control maybe in the background?
Yes, sorry, it's 5:30 in South Africa.
And a big thank you to all our translators for keeping up.
Yeah,
Thank you once again. See you soon.
we could not do without them. Thank you.
Om Shanti. Lovely to see everyone.
Shanti.
Shanti.